Hello. Yesterday I uploaded a video onto YouTube. The title was Plain Talking Reviews Ironclad 1 and 2. It wasn't until I watched the video back on YouTube with my wife that I realised that the intro was missing. I don't know what went off there because it was in the video when I edited it, and it was there when I exported it onto my computer, and then all of a sudden that portion of the video has gone missing. I don't know why. I'm not technically minded like that, so there we go. If it had been around 5 or 6 seconds long of just black screen, I'd have left it as it was, but it's getting close to nearly a minute of footage that's missing. So as you may have noticed, I've now deleted the old one and I've re-edited it, and I put in another version of the intro that I did because I deleted the one as soon as I'd updated it, uploaded it to YouTube yesterday. So here we go. Hope you don't mind. I just wanted it to redo it so it didn't interrupt your viewing pleasure too much. So here's my re-edited video of my plain talking review of Ironclad and Ironclad 2 Battle for Blood. Hope you all enjoy it. Blood, gore, violence, mayhem, people having their tongues cut out, people having their heads smashed in with a mace, people being cut in two with broadswords, rape, pillage, murder, more blood and gore than you can shake a stick at. Yeah, it's a typical Saturday night out down in Mansfield, but it's also the subject of my next video. Hello, welcome back to the Adrian Project. I'm Adrian with a face for radio, and on today's episode I'm going to be doing a plain talking review of Ironclad 1 and Ironclad 2 Battle for Blood. So before I get my head caved in with a double-bladed battle axe, let's cue the music. Ironclad, a medieval magnificent seven that combines the visceral, stylized action of 300 with the impassioned heroism and romance of Braveheart. Starring James Purefoy, Brian Cox and Paul Giamatti, Ironclad is an ultra-violent action thriller that tells the true story of a motley crew of tough, battle-hardened warriors who withstood several brutal and bloody months under siege in a desperate bid to defend their country's freedom. AC/DC's Bon Scott once wrote, "If you want blood, you've got it." And quite literally, if you want blood in your film, you've got it in bucket loads in Ironclad. Now, first things first, a lot of films will say based on a true story, and it is absolute nonsense. It never really happened. This film is based on a true story and historical fact, where Rochester Castle was under siege by King John. For those of you who don't know who King John was, he was a guy that signed the Magna Carta, which removed a lot of his powers and just handed them over to knights and nobles, really. So he wasn't really giving that much up, because the knights and nobles were all who he put into place anyway. And it wasn't too long before he turned around and said, well, no, I was forced to sign this, I'm not having any of it. And he ripped it up, and then he went to war on the people he was supposed to be ruling over. So that's a nice little potted history lesson for you. Now, did the events at Rochester Castle, pan out like this? Possibly not. This is Hollywood's version of events. Honestly, it wouldn't have happened as the way it's portrayed in here, but you've got to make an entertaining film. I'd never heard of this film. I think it was my son Michael, got it for Christmas 2 or 3 years ago. I was just expecting it to be one of those run-of-the-mill, medieval knight kind of films where you see them sword fighting, and as they thrust, you can see the sword going under the armpit and the actor falls on the floor. This, however, it's not that at all. If you don't like I said, ultra-violence, blood and gore, avoid this one, because when you see people having their tongues cut out, you can honestly believe they are having their tongues cut out. There are people having their heads smashed in with maces. One poor chap does actually get cut in half on the battlements. Buckets and buckets of gore and blood in this film. Absolutely fantastic. But let's get back to the story. It starts off with 3 Knight Templars coming back from the Crusades. They've had the fill of violence and gore, and they just want the quiet life. But they are hired to protect Rochester Castle. They will pick up a couple of other runcoves, shall we say, along the way to help them out. Special shout out to Jamie Foreman, who you may remember as one of the hard guys in one of the old East Ender seasons way back when it used to be half watchable. He's brilliant in this film, love his character. And they all, in magnificent 7 style, go to Rochester Castle and defend against King John and his army. Now, normally in these kind of films, the setup takes an hour and you're looking at your watch thinking, oh, I wish I could get on. But no, it's none of the fluff that you usually get in them kind of films. It's all done relatively quickly. There's no unnecessary dilly-dallying, and it's not too long before we're getting into a bit of throat cutting and tongues being cut out and gore and violence. Just what you want in one of these films. Right, more or less from the start. Absolutely fantastic. Set pieces are awesome. Fight scenes are very, very well choreographed. It doesn't let up for a minute. I don't think there's any really points that in this film that lull and sort of plod along. It's more or less action from the start. You really start to get on edge of your seat as it seems that King John's army are getting closer and closer, and they're actually getting into the castle. But absolutely fantastic. You do feel for them, and what an awesome film it is. Dialogue wise, it's as good as it can be in a film this this kind. It's you're not getting William Shakespeare or anything like that, but it's absolutely awesome. James Purefoy is brilliant, and a special call out to Paul Giamatti as King John. He is truly awesome. He chews up every scene that he's in, and it's fantastic. This is one of those films, stick it on Sunday afternoon, get the popcorn, get the beers, get your mates in when all the lockdown is raised and all that rubbish. You will absolutely love this film. I can't recommend it high enough. There are female characters in the film. It's not wall-to-wall blokes. And I'll say they're not your usual feeble damsels in distress. There is one character in this, I just cannot remember her name, it's just gone out of my head at the minute, and she is quite literally one woman you won't want to mess with. I'm sure she's from Shirebrook or somewhere. So there we go. Ironclad, awesome film, awesome effects in it, the fight scenes are brilliant, and you'll be cheering along for the defenders all the way. Absolutely fantastic, love this film. So with that in mind, Ironclad, I'm going to give this every day of the week 5 evil Ednas. So, if you want more blood, we've got that too. Travelling back into the dark, brutal past of 13th century Britain, Ironclad Battle for Blood plunges us headlong into one of the most violent periods in British medieval history. Gathered together by Hubert, a small band of hired swords plot how to hold off evil Celtic tribesmen. They are hell-bent on revenge for the death of their leader's son. Main protagonist Guy, whose soul is racked with guilt over the atrocities committed during the years after the Great Battle of Rochester Castle, also has to fight with his burgeoning feelings for Kate, his cousin. So, Ironclad 2, starring Tom Rhys-Harris and Tom Austin. Now, you'll have to excuse me on this. I'm not sure if this is actually based on a historical event like the first one was. Probably isn't. I think it could be just a story, just to tie in with the original. Don't quote me on that, could be wrong. Could have been based on some kind of truth, I don't know. But there you go. Okay, so great film, but it does suffer with sequelitis, as in it's not as good as the first. There is still plenty of gore in it and blood, but not half as much as was in the original. Now, whether that was down to the finances not being as much, the budget for the film, or they was just told to cut down on the gore and the violence, I don't know. But that doesn't detract from this film. It's still a great film. Now, this one takes place upon the border with England and Scotland, and anybody that knows the British history knows that England and Scotland have forever seemingly been knocking 12 bells out of each other, and this is no exception. The castle that it's set in is under siege from a Celtic tribe, because the warlord, the chief of this tribe, his son has died at the hands of the people inside the castle, so it's then under siege. Looks like everybody's going to be killed inside, so someone's sent out to try and get some mercenaries to help them out, because soldiers, food, armour, it's beginning to run out a bit and they are under a bit of pressure. So it's more or less the same story as the first, but we've all decamped up into Scotland. None of the actors in the first are in this, but the main character who is in it, as it turns out, he's in it, but he's racked with guilt with all the atrocities that's happened from what happened at Rochester Castle until this point. He said he's got no interest in doing that kind of thing again. But then he finds out that his cousin is trapped in the castle, sort of sways him to go up and lend a hand. Of course, we've got the usual beginning of getting the band together, as it were. Again, there's not a lot of time wasted on that. It could be outstretched, just to pad out the film, but it's not, and it's not too long. before the action starts. As I said before, it's not as good as the original, but the battle sequences are still great. They have been very, very well done. Absolutely fantastic battle scenes. This is more along the kin of, stabby, an actor falls down dead, but there are a couple of bits that make you wince. They have managed to sneak in, I think. It's sort of like, ooh, did they really do that? But there you go. So like I say, this story, very, very similar to the first, so you know what you're going to be getting. If you've seen the first one, this is more or less what you'll be getting there. And the ending, was all right, but could have been a bit predictable. That they did do a little twist at the end, but I say absolutely fantastic. Love this film. Yes, this is another one that you get the popcorn out and a few beers, and when we can, you get a few mates in for a film night in. Watch the first one, watch this one straight after. It's fantastic. I was going to say it's a lad's night in, but nah, this is, I think, the ladies will get something out of this as well. There are some warriors, female warriors in this film. Again, I think they must have gone down Shirebrook and found a few of the women there that, you don't mess with them. No. So anyway, there we go. Ironclad 2. Fantastic film. Great switch your brain off entertainment. Whether it's based on a true story or not, I don't know. I couldn't say, but that doesn't take away from anything. Not as good as the original, but it's still, in my book, well worth 4 evil Ednas. So there we go, Ironclad and Ironclad 2, Battle for Blood. If you've seen these films yourself, really nice to know your thoughts on the film, so you can leave me all your little details and what you thought in the comment section below. And that's the end of yet another episode. I hope you all enjoyed that one. If you did, and you haven't done so already, could you please remember to subscribe to my channel. At the moment, I'm aiming to get 1,000 subscribers, and as soon as I hit that 1,000th subscriber mark, I will donate at least £20 to Macmillan nurses here in the UK. For those of you living outside of the UK and you don't know who the Macmillan nurses are, they are there to help everyone with cancer live life as fully as they can, providing physical, financial and emotional support. I myself have had their services firsthand, and I can tell you they are exceptional. A lot of the time they do have to rely on public donations, so if you'd like to find out more about Macmillan nurses, or in fact give a little donation yourself, then please visit www.macmillan.org.uk. Okay, I'd like to thank you all again for watching. It's very, very much appreciated. Don't forget, you can still follow me on Facebook and on Twitter if that's going to be easy for you. And here's to seeing you all again on the next episode of the Adrian Project.